distribution methodology. Stream is up. All right. Now, the show hasn't started yet, Tony, but the stream is live. So people are seeing the sausage being made here as the show gets underway.
Is this the level better on this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I logged in, it went to auto go. So
let's also share this out to a group like the Broadcasting Club. And post. And we'll also share this to the TWiRT page. Page. TWiRT. Switch. Oh, it's going to give me all this nonsense. Okay, there we go. Hey, we are set up and ready a good minute and a half before airtime. How about that? Suncast, this guy you have, he hits so many cues every hour. The man is just a time machine. I still think it's amazing how you talk to your guest before going on the air while you're walking through the building.
You know, you're talking about me.
Yeah, you. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. You with the time cues and everything. You're just ready to go. And so it's great how the control room has your wireless mic and your IFB conferenced with your next guest. And you're not even in the studio yet. And I hear you talking to the guest, and I see the door open. You're zooming through the studio, and you're talking to the guest, getting the guest prepped while you're on your way to your chair on set.
By the way, I sleep in my IFB too, and I'm not using theirs. I'm using mine. So
sleep with your IFB. Okay. All right. Well, this show is not entirely, predicated on starting at the exact time. We can start whenever we want to, and that's going to be here. Suncast, are you ready? Tape to speed, batteries to power. That's what Batman used to say to Robin, but he didn't say tape to speed. He said batteries to power. All righty. Tony, our distribution method is that this goes out on YouTube, but it also goes on Facebook Live, and I share the post on the GFQ network, which is the network that produces the show. But I share that post to several different places, so that if you're a broadcast engineer on Facebook, you pretty much can't avoid seeing the show. So
that's great.
Yeah, it's on every channel. So. Alrighty, Dottie. It's time to start. Okay, everybody watching live on the stream, glad you're here. This is the sausage being made, the sausage, the ends that get cut off for the published show, which we'll publish tomorrow. And guess we're ready to go. Let me get one more drink of lemonade. Lemonade. No, it really is today. So here we go with episode 778 in 3, 2. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything from the microphone to that light bulb at the top of the tower. Hi, I'm Kirk Harnack. I'm here in the Telos Alliance studio in Nashville, Tennessee. My employer, Telos Alliance, gives me a couple hours every Thursday to take time to talk to you, to bring you guests, to talk about engineering and broadcast technology. And we got a good show for you today. It's a show that I've kind of wanted to bring to you months ago, and somehow the schedule just slipped me by, and I didn't see our guest for a while, but we reconnected about a month ago and said, hey, we got to do that show because you're interesting. And so that's what we're going to do. Our show, as we come to you every week on Thursdays, we'll continue to do that every single week that we possibly can. And we're usually here. All right, enough about that. Let's get to our guest, Mr. Tony St. James. What a fantastic radio name. I think that's what it is. Radio name. Tony St. James is here, and he is a very professional broadcaster and ops manager and content creator and station owner. So, Tony, welcome in. It's good to see you.
Wow, what do I say after that? That's a great intro. I'll leave now. Thank you.
I found some info on, maybe it's info that you wrote. You are really involved in both radio and TV, and you spend probably more time in front of the camera than you do in front of a radio microphone. Give us a little bit of an idea of who Tony St. James is.
Well, let's start with today. We can work our way backwards if we want. Days start at 4 a.m. I'm in Nashville, and I've built a studio in my apartment. And I'll tell you a little more about that in a moment as well. But I have a studio in my apartment. Go in at 4, start producing radio programming for the All Ag Radio Network and All Ag All Day radio stations, which are 24/7, nothing but all ag news. And we produce 22 of those 24 hours in house. So I start that at 4. At about 7:15 to 7:30, I start the walk over to the RFD TV studios and go on live with our RFD TV at about 8:15. That continues till 12:30. Sometimes throughout the day, I'll have an interview or two that's ag related. Everything that I do that is ag related for the All Ag Radio Network also is shared with RFD. So it's an additional source of news and content for the producers here. After that, head over, do a little TV or a little radio for Sirius XM. Then back into the studio for RFD TV, a wrap-up show, and then back to the dressing room, which is where I'm at right now. And I try to get out of here by 7 in the evening because I'm finishing up with everything else that I need to get done.
Oh my! I didn't know you worked that many hours. I thought if you start your day at 4, you'd get finished by 2 or 3 in the afternoon. But that's not the case, is it?
No, it's not. The interesting thing is, I thought as I got older and wiser and deeper into the business, I would have more time for hobbies. Well, I do. My hobby has become work, though. That's the downside of it. And my wife and daughter even bought me a cat, saying, "You need some companionship while you're in Nashville." I am not with my family throughout the week. They still live in Lubbock. And so I travel back a couple of times each month, spend a weekend, 28 to 32 hours there, and then fly back.
Oh my gosh. Wow. What a schedule. Oh my goodness. And not only all that you've mentioned, but you also, with the Ag Network, the All Ag Radio Network, the RFD TV work, and you're providing content for that. But you also own some radio stations in the Lubbock area, don't you?
We do. We own 2 small stations. It's AM FM combo, and they're in Floyd County, Texas. And in that area, there is a few towns, Floydada, Lockney or Lubbock, and Plainview. And years ago, they actually had the call letters KFLP. We found it painted on the side of an old seed barn one day, and it's like, what is that? Dug around and figured out it was these radio stations that we ended up buying nearly 30 years ago. And so our AM is KFLP AM. It's a 250 watt. It's not a daytimer, but almost, because we dropped to 7 watts at night.
Yeah.
But at 900, we can really walk the dog 100, 125, 150 mile radius on a single tower. It's also shunt fed. Oh, there you go. You won't hear that very often, grandfathered in. And then our FM is KFLP FM. We have a slogan: don't flip us off, flip us on.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, we're going to take our first quick commercial break. I love that introduction. Hope our audience, fellow engineers, programmers, operations people, you can kind of see what we've got in store. We've got Tony has so many areas of experience in operation of broadcast equipment, radio stations. He does a lot of things that we do, that we set up for radio stations, but he's, he does some engineering, but he's more on the operations and content side. So I want to get Tony to talk to us about how he does sports broadcast, how he chooses the technology, what kind of equipment he's using to get that back, how he distributes his ag network, what kind of technology he's using for that, and see if anything that Tony does is something that, well, we could advise him to do better, or we could take his advice and say, man, if that's working for you, then that sounds like a great way to do it. Our show, This Week in Radio Tech, continues in a moment. It's brought to you in part by our friends at AIR, AIIR.com. And they have got a deal that's actually really, really good. Streaming for $20 a month. Let's hear about it.
Hey, it's Kirk Harnack, and I'm here with Ricky Lee, the CEO of AIR. Ricky, you guys make a fantastic automation system, but streaming is a really big deal. Tell me about streaming with AIR.
It really is. We've got a beautiful streaming platform with an incredible dashboard with fantastic analytics. And you can buy it for just $20 a month. All you can eat. No limits on bandwidth or bit rates. And you can also record shows as well. So if you like to deliver on-demand content for $20 a month, you can stream and deliver that on-demand content to an RSS feed that can feed your radio player, your mobile apps, or a podcast that people can download and enjoy.
Now, $20 a month, that must be for just some slow MP3, right?
No, MP3, AAC, and we also now support HLS, which is big in the industry right now.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. How do I start to explore or find out more about streaming through AIR?
You go to air.com, AIIR.com/streaming. And from there, with a credit card, you can sign up and get started.
All right. And thanks so much to Ricky Lee for spearheading the things that AIR does. They make Play Out One automation, which is fantastic. We use it at all 21 of our radio stations. And they have the scheduling program, too, to schedule your music. It's all online. So you don't have to worry about a computer blowing up and messing up your whole music library. It's stored safely in the cloud. Check it out from AIR, AIIR.com. They really know about radio operations, which is what we're talking about today. So, Tony St. James, you've got a number of stories that we can get to in this hour. I'd kind of like to get into some meat and potatoes of some of the sports broadcasting that you do and your network distribution. How does that work? Whatever you want to tackle first, I'm interested in in the technical aspects of how that works, how it's set up, and then what your workflow is with you and your other content providers. How you make that work for you. Where would you like to start?
Well, let's start with local sports. We're in West Texas, so obviously Friday Night Lights is a big deal, and high school football is huge in every community, and we'll circle back to that in just a moment. But let's start with local sports for a small town station. By the way, Floydada, Texas, population about 2,000 people. County population, maybe 5,000 people. And we've got a signal that kind of bumps into Plainview, which is 25,000. And we're 45 to 50 minutes from Lubbock, but not really a player in the Lubbock market because of the intermod that you get into. Really a unique situation to Lubbock. So we're really a small market, micro market station. You have to be very creative about how you make this work. 30 years ago, when we bought the station, we were still using copper back then and phone lines. But it wasn't too long after that we started moving into cellular, and we used the bag phones, and things worked fine for us until they didn't, and we had to start finding different ways to solve the problem. Being in a small market with very few financial resources, you have to be creative. And so what we learned how to do is we use a simple laptop Windows laptop. And uh, on that Windows laptop, we put a couple of high-tech programs that are probably each 20 years old. One of them is Winamp, and the other is Edcast.
Hmm.
And fairly simple here. All of the commercials, the entire broadcast of a football game is done from the football field and from the stadium. We have one or two people there. Play-by-play guy can do the entire broadcast by himself. At 6:45, he's got a counter in front of him. He starts the broadcast. Our automation picks it up exactly at that time, and it goes until he loses the connection. Once we lose the connection, the automation picks back up, and we're back and going. If along the way we drop that call, that signal, the automation will start playing normal programming until we can get back in. We've got it in our logs so that every 15 minutes or so, it tries to reconnect if it's disconnected. So that's a way that we can do it and be totally automated and not have to have a board op. Again, very small station, very small community. We have to be creative. So laptop using Winamp for our commercials, and we use Endcast to send the programming, AAC plus stereo.
Yeah.
You can drop the bit rate way down and still have a good quality stereo sound, which in football, even basketball, it sounds amazing on the FM.
That's
So
yeah.
that's a good place to start.
And it sounds like the talent you send out there, whether it's one or two people, these people have got in their mind the idea of the whole broadcast. Maybe you have an opening billboard, and then they start talking, and then they take their breaks, and they're in control of the breaks, aren't they? If they need to play 4 commercials instead of 3, I guess that they can do that. It's up to them as long as the contracts get fulfilled, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you one thing that I really wish we had. I wish we had the ability to. I've found online cart software that you could download, but one of the challenges is they're not like the traditional cart. By the way, I've been doing radio since '82, so I've seen a few things along the way. On the carts before, you could have that 5.5 or 7.5 minute cart with multiple cuts on it. Well,
Like this.
I haven't been able. There you go. And so it would be really good to have a program where my play-by-play guy just had to hit the button and it would play. And if he wanted to continue to play, he could either have some second button in there or whatever, but it would play in a loop, if you will. Right now,
Yeah.
using Winamp, it starts, and then they have to be on their toes to reach up and say, stop after this commercial.
Yeah.
And let me throw this in. How do we keep up with the commercials? Well, we simply use Google Drive. And all of our commercials are actually resident on a Google Drive. And so when there's a change made at the station, when there's a change made here by me in Nashville, doesn't matter. It immediately updates everywhere that we are. So that's how we're able to keep our commercials updated.
Well, now I got a tech question then. When they're playing the ads at the football at the sports event on the laptop, did they download the files to the laptop, or are they playing them live off Google Drive?
So Google Drive, what we have found is you want to save that commercial. So we have a CA category under an audio folder. So CA subfolder. And we actually tell it, hey, download everything on that CA folder in the background. Okay. And so if something's updated during a broadcast, it's actually Google Drive's out there grabbing it and pulling it in. So we've actually had copy changes during a broadcast and been able to make it happen.
Oh, so maybe okay. So I'm getting this a little bit better. You've got maybe the Google Drive program itself, which can keep your laptop synchronized with the Google Drive that's in the cloud. And so if a change is made in the
Absolutely.
cloud, it shows up on the laptop within seconds of a new file
Absolutely.
going there. Okay, okay, that makes sense. That makes A lot of people don't use the Google Drive program. I use it where I need that kind of synchronization. But normally for my own workflow, I just upload something if it's there. I download something if I need it. I don't need them synchronized. But for that purpose, you want that folder synchronized. That's cool.
Absolutely. And we also use that same idea with a lot of our other programming, ag programming that I produce here in Nashville. Once I save it to that G drive, it's available on all of our automation machines. If there's something that's changed by somebody else in an actuality folder, it's immediate change here. So yeah, it's really solved a lot of problems for us. Now, there are some hiccups along the way and some road bumps, but you'll have those with nearly anything.
Now, when on that laptop, and sorry to get so deep in the weeds here, but I want to make sure I'm not missing something. If one of our listeners wants to set up something similar, because there's different ways to get a laptop and a radio station connected to each other. Clean feed is one option. That's a two-way. Riverside.fm. Some people just use FaceTime, and some people use something like that. Some people actually make a G.722 phone call to the station, but that typically requires somebody to answer the phone. If it's like a Telos VX system, it can handle the G722. But you're using Edcast, which is a free streaming encoder. What are you using at the station to receive that stream and make it available for the automation?
That's a great question. So our automation system today is Station Playlist.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons I chose that many years ago is we had tried some different programs along the way and just couldn't find something that could automate a lot of what we do. Today, probably a lot of automation systems will do this, but I can simply put in an HTTP. You can just lay it out there, and it will grab it in the log at the time that you want. And so it immediately grabs this stream. Now we're using a secondary stream provider, and that does present a challenge for some, because if you're sitting at a football game and you're listening to the radio, the touchdown is scored and they're kicking off before you actually hear it on the radio. So we know that there's a delay, the latency. We just haven't found a way to cut that latency out, but also haven't found the need to reduce that latency. So that's how we're able to move it right into the automation system. It grabs it. Actually, we do that with church services. We do that with other live broadcasts as well.
Wow, that's cool that your automation system can actually have an event that is a stream receiver. That sounds like that's what's going on.
Absolutely.
Instead of a cart, a file, this event says play this stream, and hopefully, and it's there coming from the ball game. That's pretty brilliant. That's an interesting way to handle it. And I would guess that most of the delay that you hear is actually on the consumer end. In other words, it's the station streaming out through a CDN, content distribution network, to a consumer's player at the ball game or wherever. That's typically where the buffering is built in. Typically for a professional system, buffering can be minimized or almost turned off. Not quite. You always need a little bit of buffering. So I'm guessing that the bulk of the delay that a listener would hear is actually from the CDN to them.
Absolutely. Our latency from the facility to the automation is really 15 seconds, and it's pretty solid. As a matter of fact, I set the play-by-play guy will take the air if it's a broadcast that starts at 6:45. Then I have it in the automation at 6:45, no seconds exactly. And then what he does is he'll start his broadcast at 6:44 8:45, and
Yeah.
it always
Yeah.
hits.
Gotcha. Well, and there are some technologies that get that latency down to really under 1 second. But if what you're doing is working for you, keep doing it. Absolutely, keep doing it. And if everybody knows how to deal with it, then just keep doing it. That's awesome. Okay. So now, do you distribute these ball games to other stations, or is that the Ag Network that gets distributed elsewhere?
Well, let's talk just football for a moment. Football's
Sure.
pretty big in West Texas.
Yeah.
That's how we do our local broadcasts. We do 60 broadcasts each year, and the way we sell it is we go to local sponsors and just say, would you like to be a sponsor year round? There's no opportunity to choose just football or basketball or baseball or softball. They're actually investing in those kids for year round. And so what we do is we provide 60 broadcasts each year, and we actually throw in the playoffs for no additional cost because they're on. Our sponsors are on a 12-year contract or 12-month contract. So once they're in, we've created the stream, if you will, the cash stream that we can go out and do all these other things as far as getting these broadcasts on. So that's how we do an individual game. But since football is so big, we found this out early on. And 30 years ago, my wife and I, after the first football game, were at the station, and it's like, well, let's put some scores on the air. And so after the football game, I would just say, here's what this team did, and this team, and this team. She was out front calling convenience stores, trying to find scores. Had a fellow broadcaster from Littlefield, Emil Maka, who called one night and wanted to get our score. I said, well,
Yeah.
hang on just a minute. I put him on hold. When I went to a break and came back, he said, just put me on hold. I'm going to call every Friday night and put me on hold. I said, what about my commercials? He said, I don't care. And that is how we launched the West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show. And today it's heard on over 50 radio stations, but it only covers a quarter of the state. So if you're familiar with Texas, take I-35, which goes Oklahoma City to Dallas, down towards Austin. So take I-35. It's every game west of I-35 and north of I-10. So we'll do 180 to 200 games every Friday night on our West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show. It's a 2.5-hour show, and we syndicate that back out using a product called Barracks, which has been in the headlines lately. But the Barracks unit, we have a simple encoder at the studio, and then each one of the affiliates has a Barracks box as well. And we actually did the research and development on that to move from satellite delivery to online delivery with latency of about 750 milliseconds.
And when you distribute from your Barracks encoder to all these other stations, aren't you using a reflector service? I think Barracks brands it.
Yeah, String Guys is the ones who came up with the reflector. We were, I believe, the first ones using Barracks and using String Guys to syndicate one-to-many, and it was done a long time ago. And Stephen Orr is our sales manager and director of affiliate relations. When we found out that we needed to move from the satellite delivery to the Barracks delivery, we were looking for any option we could. And I found Johannes, who was in Switzerland, with this box. And it's like, maybe this thing would work. We exchanged email back and forth. We ended up buying a couple of boxes. And before we knew it, we were syndicating to, 20 stations or so using this Barracks box. And it was before the reflector. They actually, Stream Guys developed the reflector. We weren't part of that, but we have utilized the reflector. And so that's how we syndicate. We're using the Barracks 100. So the basic model here,
Yeah.
which doesn't,
Yeah.
no closures, which means our program has to be exact time. We hit exact cues. We started at exactly 10 o'clock, first break at 10:13 exactly. There cannot be a second delay. We just have to be on our A game every Friday night.
Yeah, that is one way to do it, and certainly, Barracks is an interesting company, and of course they're kind of a competitor for Telos gear, but they kind of live in two different worlds. And I just realized we got to take a break here in just a second. But the people at Barracks, and I've met Johannes, is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've met him, talked to him for a while. Interesting character, and really some good manufacturing ideas, which is one way that they can keep the cost really low. And broadcast is only a small percentage of their total business. They're much bigger in public address distribution, train stations, and public works projects, things like that. But broadcast is a part of it. Well, that's that, and you alluded briefly to the problems that they've had, and really it's people who use the default password and don't protect it very well. There's nothing inherently wrong with their boxes. Anybody's would have that problem if you stick them out on the public internet. So anyhow, cool. We're talking to Tony St. James. He's a station owner, and he's got other stories to tell about network syndication, and we're going to talk about that coming up this week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack in Nashville, Tennessee. Turns out Tony's just up the road here in Nashville, Tennessee, about a 15-minute drive away from me. Hey, our show is brought to you in part by Broadcast Bionics and a product that's called Virtual Rack. Now, you've heard me talk about it, or maybe you haven't. Virtual Rack solves some really interesting problems. You can deploy containerized products without being a Linux expert. Now, first of all, what's containerized products? So much broadcast equipment these days is software. And for some years, we had to design the software and we had to design the hardware that it ran in. We wouldn't design the CPU, of course. We wouldn't design the RAM, but we would have to design the peripherals, the ins and outs, and the touchscreen on the front, or the knobs, or the buttons. We have to design all that. Well, now we can take that software or similar that does the same thing and put it into a very efficient compute container. It's called containerized software. You've heard of Docker containers. This is essentially that. And that means that these run really efficiently on standard off-the-shelf compute server hardware. So deploying containers, that can be pretty tricky. That is not something that a lot of people know how to do, especially when you get into complex networking and audio over IP within the Linux environment. So for some people, it's been very difficult, but the folks at Broadcast Bionics have solved that problem. What you get when you get a virtual rack is you get a purpose-built appliance. You get the virtual rack management software, which is what you look at. You don't have to deal with Linux commands, command line stuff. You just open up the management software, and there's an application library. You choose the things you want. Do you want an audio console? Do you want two audio consoles? Do you want an FM audio processor? Do you want a phone system, a broadcast phone system? Do you want mic processing? Do you want something like a stream encoding? For infrastructure purposes. All that's available from different companies like Ferncast and Sound4, Telos Alliance, of course, and 2WCOM. You choose the application that you want, you click a button to install it, and I've seen this happen. I mean, in under 2 minutes, the application is installed, the container is up and running, it's ready for you to license from its respective manufacturer, and it's got the IP addresses that you need it to have so you can deal with it. Audio over IP in and out, management in and out, controls in and out. And hey, if you want to do things like have automatic failover, you can do that too. So this is absolutely a brilliant idea. And it's really got the blessing of, for example, my colleagues at Telos Alliance. our engineers took a look at how Broadcast Bionics makes this easy to do, and we're in total agreement. Love it. It's a great product. The server, the virtual rack servers come in a couple different sizes. So if you need a big one to run a whole lot of stuff, you can. You want a smaller one, it costs less. Check it out from your favorite Broadcast Bionics dealer. Of course, you can go to bionics.co.uk and look for virtual rack. Bionics.co.uk. This so much is going to containerize software, and Bionics makes it easy for people like you and me, maybe especially me, to make this work. If you go to their website, there are some videos you can see on screen right now at the Virtual Rack webpage that will tell you all about that. Dan McQuillan has been on our program to explain how this works. So check it out from Broadcast Bionics. This is where the industry is headed, I promise you. And the sooner you get involved with it, the better. You're going to save money in the long run, too. Check it out from bionics.co.uk. Thanks for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack in Nashville. I'm on here with Tony St. James. He's our guest. And Tony owns some radio stations, KFLP, AM and FM. I was wondering about that flip. What's your slogan there at KFLP?
Yeah, don't flip us off, flip us on. We're the only station in the country with our own wave.
Oh my gosh. And according to your website, you guys run Murphy, Sam, and Jody in the morning?
We do. Murphy, Sam, and Jody. We actually learned about Murphy, Sam, and Jody years ago when I was in Nashville for another event, an ag event. Met with June Colbert, and June handles the affiliate relations for Murphy, Sam, and Jody, and they were looking to move into the country market, and we became their first country affiliate.
You know, I think we run my stations. We have 21 stations in Mississippi, Arkansas, Kauai, Maui, and American Samoa. I think we run Murphy, Sam, and Jody on 3 of those stations, and they're different formats that it works with. So, I mean, that's a brilliant syndication idea, and what talent those people are. They make it sound local and interesting, and you just want to be part of the conversation. They're really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And our FM has been music on hard drive, MOHD, and I don't know if anybody still uses the acronym or not. So yeah, our FM is MOHD and our AM is TOHD, talk on hard drive. Very little of it is actually live. But the FM, yeah, Murphy, Sam, and Jody do mornings. I do an afternoon shift. As a matter of fact, was doing the afternoon shift just before I jumped on and came on with you.
You know, a lot of folks in the industry talk about, oh, well, you've got to be live. You've got to be live, live and local. And there's a place for live and local. It would be great if we could be live and local anywhere. But I'm telling you what, I beg you to try to find somebody to be on your radio station in West Undershirt, Arkansas, who's anywhere near as good as Murphy, Sam, and Jody, because they're compelling to listen to. They've got it figured out, how to talk about life and fun stuff and occasional difficulties and heartbreak, and that it's a good show to listen to. I'm glad to see you're carrying them as well. They deserve lots of affiliates.
Well, and for us, you know, we were looking, and it's important for us to sound and appear bigger than we really are. I think if you step back and ask me to identify some of the key parts of what we've tried to accomplish over the last 30 years, whether it's video, whether it's audio, whatever it is try, look and see what you want to sound or look like, and then back out of it from there. Okay, if you want to look like network television, you probably need to spend $30,000 for a camera and this and this and this. If you don't have it, what can you do to still shoot and aim for that result. And that's what we do in a lot of instances, whether it's a remote broadcast of games, whether it's using Murphy, Sam, and Jody, whatever the case is, start with the end in mind and then back it out from there. And in many instances, you'll find that you've got a lot of options.
That's a brilliant statement. The company I work for, Telos Alliance, was started by a guy named Steve Church, and that was one of his catchphrases: "Begin with the end in mind." And you know, of course, you got to have a goal, but it's kind of a better way to couch that. Begin with the end in mind. So we've talked about your sports broadcast, how you get it to the station, how you distribute the scoreboard show. What's next? Do you want to move on to the Ag Network?
Sure, we can do the ag. By the way, I didn't grow up on a farm. I grew up in a small town, Dalhart, Texas, and had a father and uncle who were in the implement business. But other than that, that's really as close as I got. Now, one summer I did go out and help a deacon from our church run cattle. He was 78. He'd sit in the pickup, and I'd be out in my high top tennis shoes with a broomstick, moving cattle around. And we did that. We'd do it on Saturdays, but it was really more of an opportunity for him to have somebody out with him. I spent a summer on a swather and realized that cutting hay was not really something I wanted to do. So I really have no background in ag. When I graduated high school, I was on my way to KEGL in Dallas. I wanted to be a top 40 DJ along the way. But I found that as I got married and we started thinking about having a family, Dallas didn't need just another DJ. And I'm not that good anyway. So they didn't need another C-rated DJ there. But small markets needed good radio stations. And so that's how we ended up in Floydada, Texas. I didn't even know how to say it when we ended up getting there. I'll throw this out. Some other day we'll finish the story. I lived in a car for a while in radio in Amarillo doing top 40 CHR back in the 80s. So we didn't have deep pockets. We didn't have pockets at all. We actually bought the stations in 96 by maxing out 2 Visa cards. And really was divine intervention that ever happened. Along the way, hired a guy to do farm broadcasting for us. When he left, we couldn't find a replacement. So, well, when your name's on the bottom line, you gotta solve problems. And so I stepped in and started doing our farm show, our noon farm show, and had a gentleman say one time, look, you'll have the best interviews in the world if whoever you're interviewing, you'll say, give me 3 things I can ask you. Ask those questions and every one of your interviews will be good. I could have taken it 2 ways. I could have taken it as I'm horrible and he just called me out on it, or taken his advice, and I still use that today. Doesn't matter who I'm talking to. Give me 3 things I can ask you. Because if you'll start with a lot of instances, interviews where you don't know the answer and you don't know the situation, you can actually have a much better interview because you're not trying to guide it in a certain direction. So that's how I started doing farm broadcasting. That was 98. Along the way, we had some stations say, hey, we'd like some ag programming. So we created a 1-hour show and started delivering it via FTP. Each one of the segments of agriculture today is exactly 5 minutes. We have 6 5-minute segments. We have 2 1-minute segments and kind of an open and a close. And then we have 2 3-minute market reports. everything is exact time, down to 100th of a second. And the idea is that a station can run an hour, station can run 2 30-minute shows. We have some stations that run 5 minutes at the top of every hour or bottom throughout the day. So we use FTP for that. And each day, the Ag 1 is just replaced by the next day, by the next day, by the next day. So it doesn't matter when they download it. It's always a fresh show. They don't have to wander around. It can all be automated. And that's how we do the syndication side. But we also produce for ourselves 22 hours of programming every day. We have Agriculture Today. It airs 4 times each day, but it never repeats during what we would consider that span that a normal listener would be listening to. So let's say you listen from 9 to 3. You'd only hear the same Ag Today once. The next time you hear it, it's a different show already. So we've tried to take the idea of music scheduling and music formatics and move it into how we program our AM and Ag programming. We have another one, the Agribusiness Report. That's a long form interview, but again, the show is exact time. And we have a farm and ranch show. And then we take bits and pieces that we record throughout the day, and we make what's called the All Ag News Hours. And that's about 50 or 64-minute segments that rotate throughout the day. So you can actually listen for 6 to 8 hours and never hear the same programming in the same order.
Wow. Very resourceful to take these different pieces that you can use for other things too, and put them together. And then the stations have flexibility as to how they're going to use these pieces, make them fit. They can do what 24/7, right? Ag programming,
and we actually do. We have our station, which is all ag all day, and I'm running it off of one machine, but we have a second machine, automation machine, that's sitting there churning out the All Ag network. And we have affiliates in Dumas, Texas. We have another affiliate in Clovis, New Mexico. And we're working on some other affiliates as well. We use 2535 tones for them. Again, everything is pretty much exact time. So makes it really easy for them to use it on their station. We don't charge them anything. It's the old barter system, and if we find ways to sell some ads during that, then we'll make some. If not, no big deal. Doesn't really cost us a whole lot, but it helps them have something unique on their station that nobody else has, and it's reaching a niche, farming and ranching. And so there's nowhere else they can go and get that kind of programming. Plus, they save some money when it comes to music licensing.
That's right. There's no music licensing when you're all ag all the time, is there?
Absolutely. And again, well, you're going to have it, but you'd get a per program. And since we don't play any music, and any of the music that is there, it's been it's royalty free, so we've already paid for it. So it works really, really well.
Wow. Help me understand here. I'm not sure. You have you're associated with something called Paramount. That's the company that produced the Friday Night Scoreboard, right?
Paramount Broadcasting Corporation is a huge corporation, and it's headquartered in Floydada, Texas. It's my wife and I, and it's fun. Sometimes we'll receive email that's intended for Paramount Paramount
movie
Pictures or
company.
whatever they
Yeah,
are.
the movie
Actually,
company.
we've been hacked a couple of times thinking
Ooh.
we were the Paramount. And once they wiped our systems and got all our financial stuff, what a disappointment it was for them that it's just a mom pop.
Earlier in the show, let's, if you don't mind, can we talk about transmitters a little bit? You mentioned your AM station, and you said it was shunt fed. Now, is it actually a slant wire to the AM tower, or does it go parallel up the side and then angle in at some point?
So our tower is a 240-foot Roan, maybe a 45, I think. It is a grounded tower. So
Right.
no Johnny ball at the bottom on it, no insulator.
Right.
It is a grounded tower. And it's really kind of cool because you go up, and I can't remember if I was up there less than a year ago. I climbed up to the point to try to do some cleaning of it, but it is a shunt fed that is fed from a box, an ATU, antenna tuning unit, and it
Right.
comes up, and where it connects actually to the antenna is what sets the impedance of our
Mhm.
broadcast. From the RF. So ideally it would be 50 ohms. It's not, I don't know what it is, 63.5 or something. And there's
Sure.
some resistance and reactance in there. So anyway, we try to get that cleaned up through the antenna tuning unit. But yeah, it is an old shunt fed. And so the wire swings up. The interesting thing, it also has our FM on it at the top. But since it is grounded, you don't have to use isocouplers for your coax going up. You just have to make sure every 10 feet or 15 or 20 feet, you've peeled back and you're bonding the coax back to the tower. As long as you do that, you don't change anything on your tower.
Yep. Yep. I know, and I've seen, there may be more than these two ways to do it. Actually, I've seen AMs fed three different ways when the tower's grounded. One, and they did this, seems like they did a lot more a long time ago. I haven't seen one built recently, but I have been at one. They're all forms of shunt fed. One is a slant wire feed where the antenna tuning unit is actually out away from the tower. Here's the tower,
and that's
antenna
us.
unit is so it's away from the tower, and it's a diagonal wire that goes up to the tower, right?
Absolutely.
Like okay, because another way to do it is run a wire parallel up the tower, insulated off the tower, and then go in at the right point. And another way is the folded unipole antenna, where you typically have three or maybe more, but typically three that are away from the tower, and then they all connect. And I don't know the nuances of these different ways. The slant wire obviously can't really have a beautifully uniform non-directional signal, because there's this wire that's part of the circuit that's out there. But the others that have the wires more parallel, they have a nice non-directional pattern. And whether it makes a difference or not in real life, maybe a small difference. But you're right about no
at
ISO
250 watts. We're not walking over anybody for sure.
I hear you. I hear you. And your FM pretty powerful, but I thought you told me you were having some real transmitter troubles.
Yeah, we have really been plagued. So we're in West Texas, which means we deal with high winds, 60, 70 mile per hour winds. If you've ever seen pictures of the Dust Bowl, that's real, and that's real life in West Texas, where I live. There are days when you cannot see 15 feet in front of you, but you can see the sky, and it's blue. There's not a cloud in the sky, yet there's so much wind. It's so dry because of the drought, and you just have topsoil blowing. So we deal with a lot of issues like that. It's impossible to have a transmitter building that is completely sealed from that. So we have issues with dust and dirt that gets in, low humidity. So you start dealing with some static issues as well. We've tried to go solid state on the FM. That was a disaster. We could not keep the thing on. The latest is an 816, a Continental 816 R2, I think. And our TPO on it is like 10.8. We have a 5-bay, I think it's a 5-bay antenna. And so we're putting out 25,000 watts. We've really been challenged, though, over the last few years because of a lack of engineers. And I draw a line when it comes to RF. I'm not going to put my hand in a transmitter. So that's one of the biggest challenges that we have, is just the lack of engineering, and being in a market where we are, you run out of money real quick.
Yeah, that can be really challenging. I hear you there. Maybe we can figure out a couple ideas. But hey, we're going to take a break. We're talking to Tony St. James. Tony owns AM/FM in Floydada, Texas, and also he's really involved with several networks, sports and ag networks. And also, I met Tony at RFD TV because he handles so much reporting on RFD TV. Hey, our show is brought to you in part by our friends at Angry Audio. Don't get mad, get angry. Like Tony's, don't flip us off, flip us on. I like that. Check out the Rave console, though, from Angry Audio. The Rave console is just amazing. I think Suncast's going to put a picture of the Rave console up here for us. The Rave console, they have this other slogan. We didn't cut any corners. We just rounded a few of them. I got to tell you, I have held this Rave console. You know, it's heavy. It is well built. It's absolutely gorgeous. And it's got the things you need. It's the analog console. It's not audio over IP. And you know I love audio over IP, but this Rave console is an analog console that's built to last, really premium, long life components throughout. Designed by Mike Dosh, the same guy who designed some of the consoles for PR&E and the Axia consoles. The on-off buttons are slightly recessed to prevent accidental activation. It has 48-volt phantom power. It has preview or Q on every input. Super low noise, low distortion, really premium components, and importantly, really premium design. It's just amazing. It has 4 mic preamps in it, and you don't have to use all 4 of them. You don't have to use any of them if you don't want to. 4 of them are mic line inputs. The other 4 of the 8 faders are line level inputs. It does mix minus for 2 sources, for a codec and for a phone hybrid. And of course, it's got your headphone control, your control room monitor. It's got that. And your your studio monitor control and your control room monitor control. So it's got all the things you need to make a real studio. The meters, beautiful. You can see them from across the room. They're beautifully lighted LED meters. It's even got an on-air light on the console to remind you, hey, I'm on the air. It's a great console. Check it out. The price is really right, too, for this professional console. Check it from any of your equipment dealers. The Angry Audio Rave console and the website for Angry Audio. And you need engineers. You need to know this website when you're building a studio, because they have all the accessories that you need to make the studio look very professional. Check it out at angryaudio.com. Hey, another one to check out, Max Connect. And we're gonna see me doing a spot for Max Connect right here.
When I first spoke with Josh Bone about Max Connect, he told me they'd work great for remote transmitter sites where connectivity was a challenge. And he's absolutely right. We even have sites where we're using this as a backup to our STL using Max Connect's dual carrier option, and it works perfectly. It works for us. It'll work for you. Max Connect.
Gary's right. Hundreds of broadcasters are using Max Connect wireless 4G LTE modems to get reliable internet data to their transmitter sites and the remote broadcasts. MaxConnect.com. Check it out. And thanks so much to Josh Bone for having the vision and the negotiating skills and the persistence to put this whole thing together. It's a real benefit for broadcasters. Thank you, Josh. And thanks to Max Connect for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. You know, I've told you I've used Max Connect to do broadcasts, live broadcasts, to do this show remotely at various places where Wi-Fi or wired internet wasn't available or wasn't good. And we've also used it to keep stations on the air. It's really been a huge benefit. Thanks a lot, Josh Bone, Max Connect Wireless. Check it out. We have links in the show notes. All right. It's Kirk Harnack here on This Week in Radio Tech. We're talking to Tony St. James. He's a broadcaster from Lubbock, Texas, but he spends a lot of time here in Nashville, Tennessee. Tony, we've wandered through a number of really good subjects here. I don't know if you told me a story about you and Sirius XM, and I don't know if you want to go to that story or not. It was very fascinating, but I understand if that's a story you can't tell publicly, and if not, maybe there's some other thing you want to talk about.
No, I'm glad you brought it up, because it's a gentle reminder that if you're one who believes in faith, there's a time for everything, and sometimes our time is not the right time. Let's rewind back to when Sirius and XM were coming together, and part of the agreement through the FCC is they would have set-aside channels. These set-aside channels would be set up for new entrants and for underserved groups. Well, as soon as they announced that they would start taking applications, Paramount Broadcasting, within a matter of hours, already had a proposal. And it's because we had a proposal for years. We just didn't know how to submit it and who to take it to. So it seemed like a perfect opportunity. I was actually on the road covering a Beltwide Cotton Conference in San Antonio. I printed it off in San Antonio, stuck it in, and had it FedEx to New York. As they started the process of looking for their final applicants here, they weeded through, and Paramount Broadcasting was one of the final 10 selected entrants. And so we set a time, a date, and I believe it was the end of January or first part of February. And I was out covering events and just flew into Manhattan, or flew into LaGuardia, and then went to Manhattan to meet with the officials of Sirius XM. As I walked in, they asked, "Where's the rest of the crew here?" It's like, "Well, it's me." "Well, where's your accountant?" It's like, "Well, it's me." "What about your legal counsel?" "It's me." Who else do you need to talk to? As we started through the process, they obviously were intrigued by the idea of having a channel that was geared for farmers and ranchers. And as we started through, they would ask me questions like, well, why would farmers care about the national market when they're selling locally? And so I would have to stop and answer questions like that. And I tried to give them real world examples. When they got down to the budget process, and we explained how we would do the uplink, we had everything worked out for them. But as they looked at our budget, and they said, "You're hiring 2 people on this amount of money." It's like, "Yes." They said, "You can't hire 1 person for that." It's like, "Well, no, I can actually hire 3 people." But I was kind of lowballing in here. I can get 2 for sure. What I didn't understand is that a stagehand on Broadway made at that time at least 100,000 a year. And the numbers I was dealing with was less than that. And so they could not figure out how we could actually hire somebody for, $40,000 to $50,000 a year back then. That was what really ended it for us, because they said, "There's no way this will work. Your numbers don't work." Anyway, we left. I knew that we didn't get it. They said, "Is there anybody else that could do this?" I said, "Well, There's a guy who has a cable network. It's called RFD TV. I don't think they're doing anything on the radio side, but they're the only ones I could think of that could even come close. A few years later, RFD TV announced that they had a channel on Sirius XM. We could have been upset. We weren't. It just wasn't the right time. You can imagine the irony, though, that is with me when I walk every day into the studio to produce a show that now airs on Sirius XM. And again, I think it's interesting. Don't get upset about things. The timing might not be right yet. This has come full circle. As a matter of fact, I was hired in 2016 by RFD TV, and everything couldn't work out at the time. And it's okay, because it gave me some time to get some other things done in my life and our business that needed to happen before I came to work about a year and a half ago.
Wow. Excellent story. And yeah, you're right. Timing. You may have a great idea, and it's not the right time for you, and you don't know where that could have taken you. It may have taken you to an unhappy place. I don't know. But I'm glad to see that you're doing great now. This Week in Radio Tech is our show. It's our 778th episode. Tony St. James is our speaker, our guest on the show today. He's a broadcaster like so many of us, and I really respect the things that Tony does. The networking that he does, the syndication is really cool, and I'm glad we've learned something about that. Tony, you're going to have a tip of the week for us in just a couple of minutes. Are you standing by and ready to give us some extreme wisdom?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, and I'm really struggling here because I think a lot of what we do is just so simple and just simple-minded and using some old solutions. So I'm nervous.
Well, stay nervous for 2 minutes, and you know what that's like. When the camera's about to come on, you get a little nervous. At least I sure do. This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you in part. Here's a great product that could be a tip of the week every time we talk about it. It's from Innovonics. Innovonics makes so many amazing products. I'm delighted to say that our radio stations have a few of them, and one of them is this one. It's the Innovonics Sophia 568. I don't know how they number these things. I really don't, but I'm glad they do. It certainly, you know which product you're talking about. This is an HD radio. It's an FM receiver and HD radio receiver, and it provides analog or AES3 digital and AOIP outputs on the back of it. So three different ways to get audio out of this tuner. It collects histograms of signal parameters, so you can see some history on, hey, I heard my station drop out. What's wrong? Was it an audio dropout? Was it an RF dropout? It also gives you the HD radio album artwork, station logos, and other similar visuals via the web interface. In other words, you can check and make sure what you're transmitting is good. Now, it's not a mod monitor, but it's kind of a monitor for, well, obviously it listens to audio. It does show you level meters, and it shows you all the metadata, whether it's RDS or whether it is, I think they call it PSD now, that goes along with your HD radio. Multiple stations can be sequentially monitored using the programmable station rotation feature. The Sophia 568 includes a built-in band scanner. That's a real-time clock and full SNMP capability. Now, the SiteStreamer Plus series offers advanced features for the most critical monitoring situations. And I'll tell you, we use this product. We hook it up to an external antenna outside at one of our studios, and we can pick up every station except one, because it's a long ways away. But every station that we operate in Mississippi, we can listen to with our SiteStreamer. Delivers important RF and audio signal measurements, and it can dispatch an email or a text message if there's an alarm for an out-of-limit condition or other reception errors. Just an awesome product, and it's got a real-time clock battery backup. As I mentioned, SNMP is fully supported, so if you've got an SNMP management system that you like to use, you can incorporate that into it. And it even does internet streaming. So I use that all the time to be able to go check on some stations. Hey, I heard some dead air on this station. So I go check on it and see, oh, yeah, you're right. There's dead air. Let's find that problem. Or to make sure our RDS injection looks good, to make sure our RDS messaging is going at the right speed, the right rotation, the right cadence, that kind of thing. From Innovonics, this is just really amazing. I'd urge you to check it out. And where do you get it? From Broadcasters General Store. Their website is bgs.cc, bgs.cc, and you can call them at 352-622-7700. They love talking to you on the phone. Of course, you can order online too. You can go to the website at bgs.cc. But if you just want to talk to somebody, they are just absolutely terrific. I've been ordering from BGS back since the early 1990s when I was doing engineering for Sam Phillips in Memphis, Tennessee. And oh man, there's some stories there. Kirk, call them pretty little girls over at BGS. He was not always politically correct. Tell them to sharpen up their pencils. Well, they do every time. Thanks a lot, Innovonics and Broadcasters General Store, BGS, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. All right, it's time for a tip of the week with Tony St. James. Tony, it's a pleasure having you on. So looking for some wisdom now. Let's see what comes out of your mouth.
Wow. I'll tell you, I have been sweating the entire time thinking, what could I throw out there? I mean, you're talking to somebody who, my broadcast studio is in my backpack every day.
Uh-huh.
I walk back and forth between the apartment and the RFD TV studios. I have a laptop. I have a USB mic, and it's set up here. I can take it and plug it in back at the apartment. So, I've got a whole facility here, but I think the thing that we could not do this without, and we mentioned it earlier, is Google and the G Drive and the Google Drive. Our challenge at the time was we had actually 4 different automation systems running. And by the way, we do all this on a staff of 3 people. I handled the programming. Stephen Orr handles the sales affiliate relations. He's also a host for one of our shows. My son handles some of the content, but I do traffic and billing from here, and my wife helps me out. Being able to have all of these things communicating back and forth, our biggest challenge was how can we keep the right commercials playing? Because you can run it through the traffic system and it's spot number 5111 for Dairy Queen. But if you don't actually drop the right spot into every automation machine and every laptop, you'll be airing the wrong spot. And so using Google in that G Drive and then having it synced up to where you're actually syncing in the background on every machine that you need has been really a time saver and made sure that we're airing the right things. It makes it easier on the traffic billing side. It makes it easier on the production side because I'm also the production director for all of this. I handled the music for our FM. So I actually have our music on the G Drive and I can update it from Nashville and it suddenly is updated and we've got new music on the air in Floyd data. The ag programming, everything that is content is running through that G Drive. Not now the AM imaging doesn't need to be resident on the FM, so we don't have it downloading on the FM and vice versa. You can choose what you want to do. That to me is the one thing throughout everything that we do that allows us to do some of the strange things that we do on a daily basis on a very limited staff.
I'm glad you brought that up. And that's the first time I think that somebody has said tip of the week, use Google Drive. Of course, it's not the only cloud-based drive out there, and different services maybe have some different behaviors. So, for example, if you've gotten used to using Dropbox, then maybe Dropbox is better in some way, or maybe it's more complicated in some way. At our stations, we use Dropbox for our voice tracking people. The way it works fits that need. But we also use Google Drive I use it all the time. And in fact, I'm really glad you brought that up. One of our sponsors, air.com, and their Playout One system, you can keep your whole Playout One backed up to Google Drive. You may have to buy a little more space. I think we do. We pay $100 a year for more space, but all of our stations are all backed up, all the content, everything to Google Drive, and the Playout One has that module built right into it. But that's a great thing at how utilitarian Google Drive can be. It's a great idea. Thanks so much for that. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry that's the best I've got for you, but you're also talking to somebody who is still using Cool Edit 2000. And I have Cool Edit 96 on this machine as well. And I use a lot of programs that have been around for 20 years because they still serve a purpose that does what I need to without overthinking it.
I hear you. There's a lot of that out there. There sure is. Tony St. James, we got to go. We're out of time. Thank you for spending an hour and 15 minutes with us. Really appreciate your being here and giving us your thoughts on small market radio and kind of big time syndication with the number of affiliates that you have. That's really awesome. And how you do it using simple tools, well used.
Yeah. And again, like you said earlier, whatever you're doing, figure out what you want it to be and then back it out from there.
Yep. Good advice. All right. Tony St. James, he's with KFLP and several networks like the All Ag Network. And we will have links to his stuff in the show notes. We got to go. Big thanks to Suncast for producing today's show. And thanks again to Tony St. James for being here as well. We got to go. We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.